So, hello everyone. I'm just going to do a quick video this morning. It is during my lunchtime, so I'm going to try and get this in during lunch. The drop games one have actually turned off on the screen because I just want to make this a clean video. So, Comgrow, as you probably know, Comgrow has sent me, or I've had for a while, Comgrow Z1 laser, and it comes with, by default with a 5-watt laser and a diode head. So recently they send me a nice new package, which is the upgrade to the Z1 from the 5-watt to the 10-watt, and I want to walk through that process of how to take the 5-watt laser and upgrade it to the 10-watt that I just received. So let's get set up and open the box and let's see what's inside. So packed with foam. I'll hold up here so everyone can see. So you get your another set of laser glasses, which is always good to have extra pairs. You get this little metal bracket. You do not need this. This is for the Comgrow CNC machine, and this is to mount the diode laser on the CNC. So you do not need this for this upgrade, unless you have the CNC and you have the CNC without a diode laser. Then you can actually take your 5-watt and mount it on your CNC if you wish to. Some mounting screws and your laser head, and that is everything in the box. So I'm going to get rid of all this foam packing and get them out of our way, and actually I'm going to put the glasses in here too because I don't need them right now. I'm not actually going to fire the laser. I'm going to do a test fire, a quick test fire, but that's about all. And I keep out those mounting screws in case I need them. Okay, so laser head. Let's see if we have anyone in chat. Hey, old curmudgeon, how are you? Hey, Bear, how's life? Oh, you're on a call. Okay, well, thank you for coming in and hanging out. So this is the 10-watt laser head that comes. You have a protector over the lens to keep it clean. Life is good, Bear. Work, work, work. I know how that feels. You move this, stick it on a box there out of the way, and you have your laser head. Now, let's go take this apart. We take off the old laser head off the old machine. So let me go to, let's do it this way, probably a better view, and do a transition over here. Now, so we have to remove the old one, and you have two cables in the old one. You have a power and a PWM. So we gently remove these. Put them out of the way. We'll get back to those later. We have to unscrew the bracket supporting the laser. We have to totally remove these. And now what we got is, I'll show you here, with these screws, these little bolts holding this bracket on. We have to transfer that to the larger laser. Now, one thing you need to remember, the larger laser is much longer than the original, the one that came with the engraver. It does much longer. It's about a centimeter and a half, maybe 2 longer. So you have to keep that in mind when you're setting everything up. Now I need to get my Allen set. I believe that's the right size. So I'm going to remove these. I'm going to move that out of my way so I'm going to stay on camera. I'm going to remove these 3 screws or bolts. And fall on the table out of the way. Now there are no instructions with this, so if you already have the laser, you should know how to set it up. The instructions are the same thing as with the 5-watt that comes stock. It's the old laser head off. That can be reused on anything else later on. Now we take the new 10-watt laser. Because this does require it to be set in a different position, I think the best way to do this, I want to mount it pretty low because I want to be able to use the slider as much as possible. So I'm going to put in screws. There are 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to mount the screws in these positions, which are the outset of this. And there's 3 screws that come with it. They come out of the old laser, but there's 4 additional ones that come in a kit. So you can use those additional 4 to mount it. Let's see. Life is good. Okay. No new chats. So I need to move this up actually 1 level. Oh, fell. So we mount this on here. When the 3 that came with the 5 watt, reuse them. Now, as I said, I'm not going to do any burning because I'll have to move it over to my laser my enclosure for burning, because this will give off a lot more fumes, a lot more smoke will be generated when you're cutting with it, and you need to keep that in mind before you do any work on it. Hey SPC, good morning. Hey Rob, how are you? I'm just upgrading my from the 5 watt laser that came with the Comgrow Z1. I'm putting on their new 10 watt laser, so I'm actually I'm doubling my cutting power, and for engraving I can increase my engraving speed so I can get work done faster. Hey Chris, good morning mate, how are you? Just get this tightened up. It's an easy upgrade. It's not hard at all, but a lot of people will need the instructions, so it's and there's no instructions that come with it, so it's good that we show how it's done. And I'll tweak on each of these to make sure they're snugged in, nice and tight. You're good. That's good to hear. I'm doing good. This is my lunchtime, and I'm doing this during my lunch. So there are 2 connections. One says PWM and ground. Let me show you up here. One says PWM and ground, and the other one says VCC. So PWM and ground and VCC. Again, there is no instructions with this. So the PWM and ground is your black wire. That's your power. And the VCC, oh sorry, the reverse, sorry. Am I wrong? Yeah, they are no, they're the same direction. So the black and white wire goes into the first connector right here. And then the black and red goes in here, and the yellow and black goes in here. So black and red gets connected here. And these are keyed, so they always go in the right way. Let me put in the other connector. And now all we have to do is mount this on here. Now there is a higher, you have to be further away from your workpiece. So keep that in mind when you mount it. So slightly, you have to offset your mounting compared to what you were using previously. I think that should be okay. Now, they also do not give you instructions about how much of an offset you need. I believe it is 19 millimeters. Actually, Old Curmudgeon, you have one of these. Is it 19 millimeters? I believe it's an offset of 19 millimeters from your workpiece. And if you're wrong on that, anyway, you can easily adjust this by moving it. Hey, BM3, how are you? What I'm doing is I'm doing an upgrade of the laser from the Comgrow Z1, from the 5 watt laser, which it comes with, to the 10 watt version. So that looks okay. Let's see if it works. Actually, I need to get a test piece of material. Give me one moment. And I need to connect this up to Lightburn, which I thought I had a cable already run for this. So just give me one moment. Apparently not, so I can fix that. I'm doing good, thank you, sir. Just get these switched around. Get one cable plugged in over here. And the other into my USB hub. And that was Windows saying, "Hi, I see you." So, let's see. Let me open Lightburn. I don't have it opened yet, so let's open up Lightburn. And let's see if we connect to it. And I have some test pieces of card here. I can just put under the laser to fire. Just to see, oh, before I do that, actually, because it's a higher power, I want to take an extra precaution. And I'm going to put a piece of wood underneath that again to protect my table, because I haven't test fired this before and I do not know the outcome of firing it. So Lightburn is open. Double all your speeds. Yes, I know that, yes. Need to update the machine max speed in the firmware. I think it's 5,000. Yeah, I can update that. That's easy enough to do as well. But I'm only going to do a test burn. I'm actually not going to engrave right now. I just want to go through the process of doing the upgrade, and then show how it was done, which is very simple. And from there, over this weekend, actually, I'm going to do some streaming of cutting and engraving with the 10-watt laser. So let's see if Lightburn sees this first of all. So you cancel that. Actually, I need to add a device. So let it find my device, and I'm going to add in the this device. It sees a 400 by 400, perfect. Add device, and I'm going to call this Comgrow Z1. I'm just adding it to Lightburn. It's a 400 by 400. Yep, perfect. Next, next, and finish. Select my COM port, and it's homing. But old curmudgeon, the focal distance for this I think is 19 millimeters, isn't it? You have one, that's why I'm asking you. So let's go cut and let's go to move. Just moving the head out over the piece of test material I have. Let's go back one more. Okay, so we're over the test material. Let's make sure the camera can see. Alright, let me move this camera closer. And we are going to fire button first. Oh, fire set to 0%. I'm going to set this 1%. I'm going to fire at 1%, and it is firing. There is no smoke, which is a good thing. Let me see if I can get a simple design, something small, because that's a 3-inch square. Just let me find something quick. Oh, sorry, I knocked over the camera. I'm sorry. Let me get a very simple design. file, and I'll find a simple one image online, and we'll try a very quick burn. Let's see. Be handy if I spelled SVG file better, wouldn't it? Let's get a simple file like this. Let's go here. Let's see. We save the image down as Spirit, and then we'll bring it into Lightburn. Yeah, I'm just bringing a simple file into Lightburn to show. File, open, all file types. Okay, so let me just quickly resize that, and I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to get back into my Twitch. So I want to see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if, let me see if I can share this window as well. Let me see, share screen. No, that's not what I want. I want to do a new one. And I'm going to share window capture. Okay, I'll show you what this looks like. It's going to be, it's not going to fit the screen size because I didn't get it. I need to resize. Actually, I can do that now maybe. So we resize Lightburn so it fits in the window better. As it is, it does not fit very well. And make it fit much better like that. Okay, it's not perfect, but it works. I'm just going to show you what the screen looks like. Okay, so so what I've done is I framed the part right here. If I run the frame button here, you'll see what's happening. It's actually running over the part. Just to do a test image. Now, I'm going to, because this is a 10-watt laser, this is set up to do line engraving, and I don't want to change that. I want to change it to fill, and I'm going to set the speed to 6,000. I believe the laser is set to 5,000 right now, but I'm going to leave it. I'm going to actually set it to 5,000, 5,000, and I'm only going to set the speed to the power to 30% because I want to engrave it, not burn through this. And if it's too high, we'll change it later on. And it's no constant power mode, no over scanning, no air assist. That's good. So we should be good to go. It's going to create a bit of smoke, but it's going to run fast, I hope. Let's give it a try and see how it goes with the 10 watt. So I used to do burning like this at 2,000 millimeters a minute at power of 60%. I'm now doing it at 5,000 millimeters at a power of 30%, and that should work. It might be a little bit high, but let's find out. Let's start it. Actually, the shield over that is actually better, I find. I need to get my cool glasses. I can already see it's dark. So I'm actually running at twice the speed I used to be, at half the power, and actually over twice the speed I used to engrave, and at half the power. And if you're typing in chat, it's hard to see with these glasses on because they block off so much light, and there's a bit of a reflection on the inside of them. And this should be done in no time at the speed. Now I can up the speed of the engraver. I probably will increase its overall engraving speed, but if you go too fast, the downside is by moving too fast you can actually end up jumping steps, and that's a bad thing. It is a little bit more than 2 millimeters, and as I said, I didn't offset it. I asked you what was the offset. I think it was 19 millimeters, and I didn't check it. But even not in prime focus, it's actually engraving really fast. It looks like it's doing a good job. Normally, you do a 2 millimeter, which is normally an SD card under the. If you have the full size SD card, you drop the frame down so the acrylic sits on top of an SD card. Lock it in place and take out the SD card and you're at the right focus. But I wasn't sure the focus distance of this, so I just set it a little bit high. Now you also must remember one other thing. In this there's actually a double layer of shielding. So you have the shield on the outside, which is the square shield on the outside, but inside you have a cone inside that shield coming down from the laser as well. So it's actually, you're getting the double blockage. So the only thing that's coming out that actually leaves the part is actually stray light, stray UV light. You still need to wear glasses. Doesn't mean you don't wear them. It just means there's an additional layer of safety on it because of the higher power laser. That's looking good. Now I did set my laser a little bit high, so I will have to drop its level a little bit. RAM test is, oh, you're doing a RAM test? Okay. Yeah, so those of you who don't know what a RAM test is, specs claims 45 millimeters, but I'm not convinced. Okay, for those who don't know what a RAM test is when you get, actually you get a piece of wood for it. A RAM test is when you get a piece of something and you set the laser at a power, not not super high, but high enough to make a good mark in it. And you put the piece of material at a tilt, and you start the laser over here at power, and you draw a straight line, and you look along that line and you find the most, without moving anything, you find the narrowest point, and you measure the distance from that narrowest point to the laser. And by doing so, like in something like this, you would do a really shallow, not a steep angle. Like in CO2 I do a steeper angle, but you find the thinnest point, and the narrowest point of the line, along that line that you just drew, you measure the distance from that up to the laser, and that gives you your precise, your precise focal length, or focal point distance for your laser. So it's a good way, the RAM test is a good way of figuring out, if you don't know the focal distance, to find out the focal distance, or some of the manufacturers will say it's X amount, but it's probably a little bit more or a little bit less. This gets you really precise. And then you could actually 3D print a piece that actually fits in underneath the diode head, to the laser head, to get the right distance perfectly every single time. Now, what's a good idea is to make multiple blocks. To make one at the surface when you're engraving, make one a little bit deeper because you want it 1.5 millimeters lower because you want to use it for cutting or something along those lines. So you want to keep that in mind as well when you're doing when you're making up those little templates. Sorry, I can't watch the laser and do this. Hey, that's... Oh, great! I'm glad they arrived. So I'm blocking my eyes from the laser that's over here so I can read the text, because these are different glasses. They're really, really dark green. They're not the normal green color. And they block out so much light that it's hard to read the text. That's good, I'm glad they arrived. I sent out from the person who won them last night on stream, I sent out another set actually this morning. They should be getting them, they're in Ohio, so you get them in the next day or two, maybe over the weekend, maybe Saturday or the latest Monday. That's almost done, guys. Good. Let's have a close-up look without these on. I'm too close there. I said close-up, not too close-up. There you go. Came out really nice. Very simple, very easy to do. The upgrade is easy. Now, I do have the cover for this. It's in a box over there somewhere. And I'm going to show you tomorrow, I'm going to do a quick stream tomorrow. Sharp as spectacles. Yeah, it's really clean, really sharp, nice detail. I will do some testing and cutting with it over the weekend. What I'll do is I'll do some cuts, some engraving and cutting with the 5 watt on it. I'll probably retrofit the 5, do some testing with the 5 on there, and then repeat the same test. Let's say cutting a 3mm piece of ply, like this stuff. And I might do a test of cutting it first with a 5mm and see how many passes it takes to cut out a square, and then come back later on and do the 10 watt laser and do the same path, the same job, with probably 1 or maybe even 2 passes. So that's all there's to it, right? The upgrade of that laser is very simple. It's a very easy process to do. It will save you a lot of time actually doing engraving. It'll save you a lot of time doing cutting, especially cutting. It'll make a lot of time, and it will speed up your engraving an awful lot, because your head, you can actually make your head move. The head of the laser moves way more faster than you used to be able to do before, because the amount of power you have available. And now, the one thing people don't know, diode lasers come out at a maximum of about 7 watts. That's the highest power you can get from a single diode in the diode laser. So to get to a 10 watt laser, they take the diode lasers that are in this, basically they take 2 of them, and they pass them through a they have to pass them and bounce them off a mirror, or in most cases they run them through a prism of some form, and they get a single beam coming out. So we're actually getting concentrated light from 2 diodes coming out to create 1 beam, which is why you get 10 watts. And to make those align, part of the reason to make those align is you need more focal distance, and which is why this head, the new 10 watt head, is actually longer than the old one, and their focal point is not the same. The focal point is further away, because again the beam is going to be a little bit wider, so you'll need to have more distance to take a wider beam down to a small point for focus. Anybody have any questions on how to do so, or any questions on doing this? Actually, I might rerun that. Let me rerun that, and I'm going to do it on the wood this time. Let me update the. I'm going to leave the power settings as they were. Let's see if I can go to higher speed. Actually, no, higher speed wouldn't be a good idea. I'll up the power to 40%. And I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it on the wood this time. Let me put my glass on, because that was really fast. And if you hear noise in the background, I have a printer running over here in the corner. I'm actually printing parts for that belt printer that I'm working on, or going to be working on. Question, let's see. Well, the benefits is, first of all, you can cut material way faster with less passes. You can engrave much faster. So if you were engraving in the past at 2,000 millimeters a minute, you can now up that to 4,000 or 5,000 millimeters a minute. So you can engrave much faster. Cutting is a really big difference. And when each cut pass is a deeper cut, So 3mm ply, you might have done it in the past in 2 or 3 passes, maybe even 4 passes depending. With this one you'll probably complete the same task in probably 2 passes, maybe even 1. So it actually makes your overall work time shorter, so you can be more productive when you're doing stuff. So I'm going to do it actually on the wood. It's a little bit smoky, but we'll do it. Okay, just get ready to get started. Oh, 1 second, stop. I didn't do the focus. My bad. I'm going to get the focus right this time. And I do need to drop this down because it's set too high, so I need to remove the 2 bottom screws here. Loosen this, drop it down a little. Because I need to get it the right distance this time around. I want to. Because I was out of focus last time, I know that for sure. And I want to get, do I have an SD card here? I can estimate it. 2mm is roughly the thickness of this little wrench, so that'll be perfect for me. Yeah, I agree. If you want to cut stuff that's more than that's thicker than 3mm or 4mm, the red shield will have to come off, because you need to have a travel distance when you're cutting. I can use something much thicker. I'll use this as the guide. When you're cutting, you don't set your focal point to the top of the material you're cutting on, ever, because you want to cut down through here. So you actually set your focus point below the surface of the material. And if you can do per pass 2mm, and you want to cut 4mm deep, you have to set your focal point 2mm down into the material at least. And then you do a pass, and then you drop it again, and you do another pass, because you want the focal point, the energy concentration, to be below the material you want to cut into. And let's see. Does running a diode laser at 100% affect the life and span of the CO2? Yes, with some, and I'll clarify that. The reason why I say some diode lasers have full duty cycle diodes on them. A full duty cycle diode can remain on at 100% for a longer period of time without having an effect on it. If it's not full duty cycle diode, over time it will eventually weaken them and they will burn out. Now, anybody who has a diode laser should always consider the diode laser, the laser head, as a consumable. Just like we do in a CO2 laser, you consider the laser tube in a CO2 laser, which is a long glass tube where the laser beam is generated. That's also a consumable in that laser. So you should always consider it a consumable. Eventually they will burn out, they will die, and your choice is then, do I upgrade to the latest and greatest machine, or just buy a replacement head? But I know at least one of mine. I haven't checked on these ones yet. I know at least one of mine. The R-Tour one I have is a full duty cycle. It's a 5-watt but full duty cycle. I'm not sure if these are full duty cycle diodes or not. I'm not sure. Yeah, I agree. I would always try and stay below. Like, I would go to 100% now and again for doing cuts, but always expect that at some point it's going to eventually give out on you. So when you're engraving, never engrave it high, and most people will spend most of the time engraving anyway with it. That's what I said. They are consumables. You should always consider them as a consumable. So we're going to run this again. Now that's in focus. And we're going to engrave. Let me home this in. I need to increase the travel speed on this. Let me see here. That travel speed is set very low. You go to device settings, white space scan. I can increase the white space scan to 3000 as well, so I'm going to upgrade that. Okay, so let's go and run this on a piece of wood this time. Start. So because the extra shielding is there, you can't actually see much, but it is engraving. Not very deep, which is okay. Let me switch over camera. Sorry, I thought I was on the laser. So I'm not going super deep. I'm just marking the surface of wood. I'm not actually penetrating deep into the wood. If I was going to go deep into the wood, I would actually either up my power or slow my engraving down, because it's a matter of speeds and feeds, right? You want to get the speed right, and then the power energy high enough output. And if you don't want to go too high in the energy on a laser, just slow down your job. So this is very light on the surface, because I'm running so fast. Let me take my speeds and feeds again. I'm doing this is generating a lot of smoke. I'm doing at 5,000 speed at 40%. So if I went up to 60% on this, it would actually engrave into the material. This is actually just marking the surface. Let's see. Hey Chris, how are you? I do not know if the focus is full duty cycle. Sorry, I'm putting my hand up because the laser is over there. I don't want to be looking at it. How's life, Chris? Good morning. There's a lot of smoke coming off this. Let me turn on a bit of a fan over here. One moment. I don't want all that smoke in front of the camera. Okay, the fan is running now, so it's going to move the smoke, move the bit of smoke that's breathing. It's only a light bit of smoke, but I don't want it blocking the camera. Let's see. Don't look at me now, but I have a bear. I know there's a bear in my chat room. I know that. Yeah, he's always hanging around this area. We have to stop feeding him, and maybe he'll stop hanging out. Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure what Old Curmudgeon has. I think he has a Z1. I think Old Curmudgeon has the same. Sorry, my cool glasses to keep my eyes safe. I think Old Curmudgeon has a Z1 like this, and he got his with a 10 watt diode head. Mine came with a 5 watt diode, and I upgraded it. I just upgraded it just a few moments ago to the 10 watt. And we did some testing. While that's going, I can show up close over here. Doing some testing on this heavy card, and now we're testing on a bit of plywood. I haven't tested cutting. I won't do it out here. I have a chamber, an enclosure that I do all my cutting and so on. Oh, the type. He's got a diode laser. He's got the Z1, the 10 watt Z1 that I have here right now. It's actually a good laser. It's a good machine, but all of they're good. Like the Comgrow, it's a nice, well built, well designed machine. It's all aluminum framing, and also it makes it strong. The R-Tour, which is this one, is also a good machine that I use on a regular basis, and I have multiple different types of heads for this one. The FE20 is in my enclosure over there, but the FE20 is similar to this, slight different dimensions, but not by much. And it's also a good machine. It's actually, the FE20 is actually better for engraving than it is for cutting. This because it's got a 5-watt laser head first of all, and I did some cutting. It took me 4 passes to cut through 3mm ply. This with a 10-watt laser will probably go through it in 1 pass, I'm guessing, if I get the speeds right. Let's see. Safety glasses, but it looks like, yeah, they all come with safety glasses. Every laser should come with a pair of safety glasses. If they don't, shame of them. If there's anybody in the room with you when you're engraving, they should also wear a set of safety glasses. Always wear safety glasses. If there's anybody, if you have pets, keep them out of the room. The laser beam is not a problem unless it's shining, unless it's aiming directly at you, right? That's not your issue. Your issue is when the laser beam hits the material and it's ablating the material, it gives off ultraviolet light. It creates UV light, and that UV light is what damages your retinas. So and affects your optic nerves, right? So you want to ensure that anybody in the room is protected and any pets are kept out of the room while it's going, because the UV light can potentially damage your light. Now, if it's in the far side of a room and your back is to it and you're working on something, or if you're watching it on a screen but you're in the same room and you're watching on a screen, that's different. Unless your walls are made of aluminum foil and they're reflecting all of the light. But a normal wall absorbs most of the light, so it's not a problem. There's glasses are designed for each type of laser. So there are specific glasses for different types of lasers. So the glasses that come with these, they are what's the material? It's polycarbonate lenses, and they're thick polycarbonate, and the polycarbonate is what filters out most of the UV, and in the color filters out the glare of the light, of the flashing of the UV light, so of the laser beam. For a CO2 laser, I can probably get you a set. They look very, very different. Let me get it for you. So, the glasses for a CO2 laser are different. They are not even tinted, because CO2 laser is invisible to because of the spectrum of light of it, because of the UV. They actually block UV. So CO2 glasses are clear. But the type of material and the coatings on this material is what blocks the laser beam. So it's going to move. Depending on the laser you have, you'll need to have a different type of glasses. So if you have all diode lasers, then the same glasses. If they're the same frequency, the same glasses. If you go to a DPSS laser, you need a different pair of glasses, because they have the different glasses for DPSS are there to design to protect your eyes from the light coming off the DPSS laser, which is a higher frequency light. It's still a diode, but it's a higher frequency energy, and you need different glasses to protect your eyes from them. I wonder if a laser tech like this will get. It's super easy already. Like, it can't get any easier. Basically, with these things, you set them up on a table, you assemble it, you set it up on a table, you install software to manage it, you plug it into your laptop in the USB. You bring this. Let me share the screen and I can show you the software. Let me transition over here. One second, let me get the scene up. Let's see. My laser is going out to the garage. I have an enclosure in my house that extracts the fumes outside. So it's easy for me. And you must remember, if you're running a laser, you cannot walk away from it, ever. You stay in the room with the laser. You never get up and walk away. Because if this laser head is moving, let me go back to this. If this laser head is moving, and for whatever reason the X-axis stepper motor fails and the beam is on, unless there's safety setups built into the laser to detect that it's not moving and it kills the laser beam, what's going to happen is it's going to stay in one spot and keep burning and burning and burning and start a fire. You never leave a laser alone. You kick off a job, you stay in the room. You don't have to be standing over it, you stay in the room. And in this room alone, I have 3 fire extinguishers. So if anything goes wrong, I have a fire extinguisher over near that laser over here where I set up my lasers. I have one on the far side of the room near my office. If something happened, I came out of my office. And I have one over here as I enter the room. You never take enough precautions. I'll write a nursery rhyme in it. Three or four more? I don't know. It's not nerve-wracking. It's just common sense. Like, would you leave an open fire unattended in your house? No. Would you leave? Would you let anybody in your house play with matches, or the kids play around with matches? No, because it's open flame. It's dangerous, right? The same comes with this. You don't let people play with it who don't know how to use it. You stay in the room when it's being used to make sure, like if you get your kid to use a knife to chop something up, one of the kids, you stay in the room while they're chopping to make sure they do it safely until they get old enough and wise enough to know the precautions they have to take. The same goes for laser, right? And the same goes for you as a laser user. You stay in the room, you get involved, you watch what's going on, you don't leave it unattended. When it's done, you shut it down. You make sure, and the other thing is, if you're doing it in the vented area, or if you're doing a long burn especially, like these were very short and they're indoors and I have a fan moving, but you can smell the smoke in the air. If I was doing a proper long burn, I put into an enclosure and extract the fumes outside. You could set it up outside in the spring or the summer if the weather's nice and just do the work on it outdoors, and that way then you have to deal with the smoke as well, but you still watch it. You always watch it. It's just common sense. I wouldn't walk away from it. You were saying about monitoring with a camera. You can monitor with a camera, but I wouldn't leave the room. I really wouldn't. I'd be there. There's been posts of people who have walked away from lasers, CO2 lasers, and well, not so much diode, but some with diode. Someone recently posted a picture on one of the groups. I can't remember which one it was, of his laser head, all burnt up, and everything around it was actually all charred. The belts were damaged, and the wiring was all burnt because he left his laser alone. He walked away from his laser. Never ever ever leave a laser alone. So stay in the room with it and just checking it regularly. That's the safest way to be. I never run a laser without being here, or in me or somebody else in the room watching it. So if I have to go upstairs for whatever reason while my laser is running, I'll call my son or my wife or somebody to come down and keep an eye on it while it's running, and while I have to go away for a few minutes. I don't start a job unless I know I can be there for it to finish. It's just safety. You always take the precautions. You do not want to run the risk of something going wrong and it come back to bite you. So I wouldn't just monitor it from remote. Jerry has a camera on his, but his is in a room immediately beside him, and while he's on his computer he has a window open with the camera watching his laser, and he is 10 steps away from it. I do it here in an enclosure that's somewhat fire protected, but I never leave this overall room. It's a large enough room, but I never leave the room. And if I do, I always have someone coming in instead of me. Well, if you're doing, as I said, if you do it during the spring, Here's what I've done. Let me show you what I've done. I'm going to move my camera, okay? So please excuse if I get dizzy. I have that's a Creality enclosure. On the back of that, there's a vent on the back of that will actually take a 4-inch flexible pipe, and then that is then piped out the window. You see the window right behind it? It pipes out the window through a vent, and I have an inline fan that sucks the fumes out. So while I in laser engrave or cut in there, the fumes are being extracted. And I do it with the cover of that closed, so any fumes that are created, because the fan is running, it's creating a slight negative pressure inside the chamber, inside the enclosure, and so the air from the house goes into the enclosure and goes out the window, rather than the air from the smoke from inside there coming out to the rest of the house. That's how I do it in house, and I can keep an eye on it, and I can use it in winter and spring and summer. Doesn't matter. If I want to do stuff in summer and I didn't want to be in the house, I'll set it up outside of my deck on a table out there and let the engraving work away out there while I'm outside in the sun. But I never ever leave it alone. And you shouldn't. I'd never just set it up and just monitor it remotely. Many people have done that, and some have been bitten and bitten bad. I've seen some stuff on the CO2 forums where people have lost whole sheds because they had everything set up in a garden shed because they had weather that they could work out there all year round, and they have lost their gardening shed and all their printers and all of their equipment that they had in that shed gone, and they walked away for 5 minutes. So don't leave it. Start off a job, expect to be there till it's done. Should be the general rule of thumb. Yeah, so it's common sense that when something that has the potential to create fire, you don't walk away from it. You set up a fire pit in your backyard. You don't walk away. You can do it in a shed, but as I said, if you're around it, then all you need, and something happens, all you need is a small little bottle. I have fire extinguishers because I have multiple devices here. I have printers and I have lasers and I have CO2 lasers and I have other stuff here, right? But what most people do is if they're out and if a flame starts building up and there's a flame and it's starting to catch fire, they get a little spray bottle with water, turn off the laser, move the head out of the way, spray the material, fire is gone. Problem solved. No need to reload your fire extinguisher. That's only for something getting bigger, right? But a little spray bottle, the squeeze bottle of water, sprays, your fire is out. The flame will be small, but over time that would build. That's why you don't walk away from it, because the moment you walk out, if it stops, if it's on one spot for 5 minutes, you have a problem. Now, some lasers do come with the options that monitor even the movement of the print heads of the axes, and then by doing so, by monitoring those, that if they find that the laser is firing but the one or more of the axes is not moving, it'll kill the power of the laser. They all work that if you well, most of them do anyway. If you disconnect the USB cable, it'll you can no longer it will no longer work. Most of them have tilt meters on them that if you have it and you tilt it above 45 degrees up, the laser will power off. Yes, an expendable shed. That is a good point. Do not grab the IPA one because that'll only flame up on you. That's a good point. I have a decent CFM exhaust. Yeah. If you go with something about 200 CFMs or greater, that will extract all the fumes. And if you can build a chamber, as a Comgrow have what they call it. It's not really an enclosure. It's more of a tent that goes over the top of this onto a table. And it basically keeps the fumes in there, and it does have an exhaust fan on the back, an exhaust port, so you can run a fan off it, or a fan with a tube coming off it to extract the fumes out, and that would work. That would help because again you're creating negative pressure. You're drawing air into the enclosure and bringing it out through the fence in the back. So I say 178, 200 CFM. If the higher the better. If you had a 500 CFM fan, it'll be a bit noisier, but yes, it would extract all the fumes. And you probably smell nothing in the house. But what I have works great, and I've actually done some cutting. Actually, I cut this box I have some stuff in there at the moment, but I cut this box on the FE20, which is the one from Focus. This laser will actually cut through this like butter, really fast, because it's twice the power. And I've done it in that enclosure without any issues. What I do is I put aluminum foil on the bottom. Even though I have a wasteboard, I put aluminum foil over it, because aluminum foil underneath, the laser will not go through aluminum foil, so it won't cut through metals. Well, you see, I hate. No offense to anybody who works on a HOA who are involved. I in a very polite way, I despise HOAs. I'm into astronomy, as most of you know, and stuff like this. I would love to build an observatory in my backyard. They won't allow me. I'm not allowed to build anything out there. Even a place to put to move my tools, if I could, out of my garage, because garages are for cars, right? I would love to move them out into a shed. Can't do it. They won't allow it. So HOAs are a nightmare, and if you can get away from them, do. And if I ever do move from where I am, there'll be no HOA, because I will be building my observatory, and I will have a garden shed, and I will have, like, my garages will just be for my cars. No storage in there. That's where I'd like to be. But yeah, HOAs can be hard. Some are reasonable, some are not. I am unlucky enough to be with a group that are difficult to work with. Let's just leave it at that. But yes, the 10-watt laser does a good job. Do you know that if you are in an Amazon Prime member? Oh, that's only okay. Yeah. Well, some of you have already subscribed to the channel. You know that if you are Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to the channel with your Amazon Prime account. So that is an option out to you. But most of you, I believe, are already followers. And if you're not already a follower, please click on follow below. Follows cost you nothing. I'm at 98 followers right now, and I already have 18 subscribers, which is fantastic. Thank you, guys. We've been going for almost an hour now, so my lunchtime is almost up, because this is during my lunch. Tomorrow I will be doing another one, just so you know. Do you have any recommendations of where to buy raw materials, coasters, wood? Yes, you can go to your craft store. Hobby Lobby have them. A lot of craft stores have them. Plywood and so on. You'll get a lot of hardware stores depending on the thickness of ply you're looking for. You need a good quality ply. Like the stuff I use is the Baltic birch plywood. It's really good. You can buy basswood on Amazon of different sizes. Problem with basswood is the really thin basswood. It cuts really easy, but basswood has a tendency to warp very, very easily, especially when it's thin. So what I would recommend you do is, if you do buy basswood, which will cut like a dream, I would recommend you buy it, take it, put in its packaging, put weights on top of it, heavy weights on top of it, and when you store it flat, and when you're using it, take out the part you want, put the weights back down, whatever you're doing, and as you use it, when you're done with it, take it out, keep it flat until you have the part assembled, whatever you're cutting or whatever you're making. Because when you assemble stuff in like a box, the three-dimensional shape of a box gives it rigidity, right? But when you're doing it with sheets of basswood and so on, it does have a tendency to warp a lot. But it is really nice to cut. It cuts really easily. Coasters, Michael's store, if you have them nearby, Michael's stores have coasters. Again, Hobby Lobby will have a lot of it. Anywhere that does, Joann's may have some materials. I'm not sure if they'll have wood, but they'll have some other materials that you may want to do, like leather and so on for engraving. This will do leather. It will do acrylic. It will do wood. It will do. It won't cut acrylic, not really, not properly anyway. And that's what the CO2 laser is for. But it will engrave lots of soft materials, and except metals. It won't really engrave metals. Some claim it will engrave metals. It doesn't engrave. It actually just discolors the surface, and over time that will just wear off, because it's only basically you're just coloring the material. You're not actually engraving or etching into the material. You're kind of heat tempering the material to change its color. But other than that, a lot of materials you can do easily enough. Cutting card is easy. Hey Zolan, how are you? So there's a lot of materials you can cut easily. I've done some card, I've done some heavy card, I've done I didn't do any paperwork, but you could. But I've done some card, like you made Christmas cards out of it by creating 2 different color card. One gets engraved, you remove it, and you actually stick them together, and you get a nice effect. Not too bad. 6 puppies, congratulations. Very cool. Actually, I need to do some shout outs as well. Let me do. Actually, Zolan, since you're on, do a couple of shout outs there for everybody who's on stream. Zolan is an admin, so you might as well do them. Hey, Fix'em Dude, how are you, sir? We just did the upgrade of the Comgrow Z1 laser from the 5 watt to the 10 watt head, and we did some very quick tests. So we did this one. See how that looks there on a heavy card. It looks nice. And then I did this one. Let me get this out of the way. I didn't do it very deep. This one here. I just did a test on wood and it came out really clean. So I will do some more work on it over the weekend. I'll probably do some cutting with it over the weekend to show you the difference in power and so on. Maybe I'll switch back to the 5 watt, do a cut, and then switch to the 10 watt and do the same cut, decrease or increase the cutting speed. Oh, Fix'em Dude has it covered. Excellent. Thank you, Fix'em Dude. So yeah, it's a nice little machine. I've done a lot of stuff on the Z1 already, as you know, but upgrading the head to the 10 watt will actually make it a lot faster. And tomorrow, around the same time tomorrow, I am actually going to assemble the Comgrow cover that they have created for this laser. Now, I'm pretty sure other diode lasers like the other ones that I have here will actually fit inside. So those are all similar dimensions. So we will set it up. I will do the assembly of it, and then we'll see how it is for fitting other lasers to make sure that they should. But I believe there'll be no problem there. After getting enclosure for the laser completed, I'm thinking of going to one of the dual diode 15 watts. Okay, so the 15 watt are actually well, the 10 watt is a dual diode. So you're talking about using it. They're actually probably 17 watts because they're dual diode 7 watt lasers. So because 7 watts is the highest power you can get out of a diode laser. If you want to go above that, you need to go with you need to double the diodes. So for a 15 or 16 watt or 15 watt, it's 2 7s, so they're about 7.5 each is what they are. An 80 watt output or input. Yeah, but it's running 2 7 watt heads is what it's doing. There's 2 7 watt or 7 or 7.5 watt diodes in it that are passing through a prism and coming out as a single beam. That's how they work. You can't go over 7 or 7.5 watts on a diode laser unless you, like on this frequency diode laser, unless you go up to a DPSS laser. The DPSSLs, you can get way high more energy out of it because it's a higher frequency energy beam, light beam, and that gives them more energy. So even at lower powers, they wipe the floor with these. But like a 10 watt DPSS laser would cost you $500, roughly 500 or 600, and that's just for the laser head. And you have to have an external control unit for it. You will not run off the laser grubber board. So the board connects to the controller unit, and you set the power on the controller unit, and then your laser the board directs the XY coordinates. That's how the DPS. Now, what John over Tripod's Garage got was a DPSS laser, but it had a galvanometer. So it had the laser head was mounted in the head, and inside that the galvanometer was basically a set of mirrors that move super high, at high speed, and they direct the laser beam around, and they move the laser beam. And so the DPS can engrave metal because the energy output is higher, but they're using the galvanometer to direct it. So you are limited in space of the size that the galvanometer can actually run the laser, and the further out you go in width, the less and less energy, because you're losing energy over distance, and the image will not be as crisp, because what was a straight down laser beam has now become a laser beam at an angle hitting the surface. So your laser point is no longer a point anymore, it's actually a longer flat surface. So there are, using the galvanometer is good, because it makes it, you can do a lot of stuff with high speed, but there are limitations to its physical size, whereas a DPSS laser head on a frame like this, if you do that, you can get a larger print area and way more power. And a DPSS laser head, if you look at the size of this, a DPSS laser unit is about that tall, roughly, with a really long probe at the bottom where the laser comes out. But it's about 3 times the size of this. Yeah, well, you can cut, you can cut ABS and PLA and so on, but I wouldn't inhale those fumes, and I'd never do it indoors, because that's poisonous. Now, you don't have to tether it to your laptop. Lightburn will not run on a Raspberry Pi, but it will run on Linux. But Laser GRBL, is open source, it's free, and it will run on a Raspberry Pi. So you could actually run it on a Raspberry Pi. So you could create the file, upload the file to the Raspberry Pi, and then print it, use the Raspberry Pi to run Laser Gerbil to manage the job. So you don't have to have your laptop tied to it. Because I'm running Lightburn, I do. But if I was, because Lightburn doesn't support the Atom processor. But if you had a Pi and using Laser Gerbil, you could actually run it on a Pi with Laser Gerbil. I run K40 Whisper from my K40 CO2 laser, and it's all run from my Raspberry Pi. I just FTP the file to it when it's ready, and then I run the job from the Pi, so I don't have to have my laptop out here running my CO2 laser. Laser Y faction man. Hey Lama, how are you? Just because they talked about doing it doesn't mean you have to. But you have to be careful. Like a DPSS laser or a 15 watt laser is going to be obviously 3 times more powerful than this, and 1.5 times more powerful than the one that I have on this laser right here. Do you want to try it out, Fix'em Dude? Let's see. Rich has a warning sheet about materials. Yeah, there are materials. Like you never cut. DPSS will cut acrylic, clear acrylic. A diode laser will struggle to really do much damage to it. What color it may cut. Vinyl, you never ever cut vinyl on a laser. That releases chlorine gas. Chlorine gas will, 1, attack your lungs, which is obviously not good for you. Secondly, it will actually corrode the metals on your laser and anything in the room, because chlorine gas is a corrosive material. ABS, the VOCs from ABS alone, even printing them, is bad for your lungs. When you're burning them, it's even 10 times worse. So there is a list of materials that are no-goes. Like closed cell foams, some of them can be laser cut, but the non-closed cell foams, like the non-stiff foams, they're really soft foam, they are not closed cell. They are dangerous. They will poison you if you cut them on a laser. So yes, you need to research your materials before you cut it on. Even if you're doing it outdoors, I wouldn't do it, because again, as I said, chlorine gas, certain materials that release chlorine gas, that's actually going to damage your laser. It's going to damage your laser itself, not just your lungs, but it's also going to attack the hardware. So I would avoid it. Just research your materials always is probably my greatest advice. And if you're unsure, if you're not certain, then default to I don't know and I'm not going to try it, unless I find out more. Put some in your pipe and smoke it. You know, for science. And I think we should take Llama's last comment and put it under the worst advice ever column. What do you think, guys? Just for science is not a good enough reason to do it. But I like how you think. Yeah, we should create a column saying worst advice ever and then best advice, and we should keep a list. And I think, and then eventually under worst advice in small brackets we'll write down Llama's advice. What do you think, guys? And Zola might fall under some of those too, just because he's. So any other questions about it, guys? If not, I will wrap up here. Nobody knows streaming. I don't think anybody's out there streaming at the moment, is there? Let's have a look. I don't think anybody's out there streaming that we know of right now. If there is, we can jump over. Got there before you, Llama. I engrave a llama or engrave a llama. Hey John, how are you? Okay, if you spring one up, Llama, I will jump over. We can go over to yours. On some vinyl. No. See, that's another under the llama column, you know. Worst advice ever. All right, let's see if Llama gets his setup spun up. I don't see him online. I know I'm working too, John. This is actually during my lunch hour. I'm using my lunch hour for this. It's almost 1 o'clock, so I'll be stopping shortly. I just upgraded the laser beam from the 5 watt to the 10 watt. And we did 1 or 2 quick tests, and then there was a whole pile of questions that were out there, so we addressed those. Tonight I will not be around tonight. My son has a swim meet, so I will not be on any streams or anything tonight. I will do another one tomorrow for the cover for the laser. I will do that tomorrow to set up an assembly of that, and then I will be doing probably some cutting. I'll use this for some cutting this weekend, so we can actually see the cut speed of it. I might do a 5 watt cut, see how many passes it takes, and then switch to laser head and do the same with a 10 watt laser to do a comparison of the cutting times and speeds. Is Llama live yet? Llama live. He is not. Do a quick refresh to see if he's online. 13 people still hanging out. Thanks, guys. And if you haven't already followed, just click the follow below. Follows are free, guys. Let's see, is he online yet? No, still no Llama. Oh, he just went live. Good. Let me copy. Do I see him here? I just got the notification. I want to see if his name shows up. Okay, so we're gonna jump over to Llama. Yeah, fix him, dude. Thank you again. Thank you so much for the bits. Thank you, sir. Anne, how are you? You just came in as we're about to leave. We're about to go over to swing over to Llama. Yeah, I know. There's no at, but yes, I know the raid. I'm just about ready to type it. And let's get this set up. And we're going to go over to Llama. Llama says he just spun up. So let's see if the raid is populating. Let's get it populated. We have 12 viewers. 10, 12. We're almost ready. 3 seconds. Okay, guys. We're ready to go. Let's go over and hang out with Llama for a while. I need to go back to my day job. And thank you for hanging out with me. It was fun. Hope you learned something out of it. Optional, obviously, but I hope you did. And if you have questions, you know where to find me. I'm often on Twitch, so make sure you follow the channel. Let's go over and see how Llama's doing. Take care, guys. Have a good day.